Hello everyone, and welcome to Dark Natter, the podcast where we squeeze a piece of dark fiction and drink the fresh, pungent ooze that comes bubbling out. Yeah. I am John Richter.
And I'm Liam Martin.
And today, as usual, we'll be discussing a work of dark fiction, whether that is a book, a film, a video game. Last time we were on, it was an album. And who knows what we're going to be talking about today, because it is Liam's turn to pitch to me a subject for consideration for entry into the illustrious, hallowed Hall of Pain. Flipping heck. That was like a aggressive laugh you did.
It was aggressive.
I liked it.
It was more of a cough.
Yeah, it was a bit of both. It was like clearing your passages ready for the recording.
You better believe it.
So, basically since we started this show last year, we have noticed that it's become quite easy to get into the Hall of Pain.
Yeah.
Because I think this is about is this our 19th episode we're doing?
Wow.
Possibly even our 20th. Let me have a quick look. Hang on. That is pretty unbelievable. But yeah, this is our 20th episode.
Wow.
Which is staggering. We've nearly been at this for a year.
Probably should have picked something better for it. Not that you know, of course.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. And it has been commented mainly by us that it's quite easy to qualify for the Hall of Pain, given that we've never rejected anything, have we?
We've come close a few times. Actually, we haven't even come close.
Yeah, we're just too kind of polite, really, and it'd just be a bit awkward. Can you imagine if one day well, anyway, all those days of easy, you think you're just going to rock up today with some half-arsed bloody pitch and just roll it, just waltz in? Well, think again, pal.
That's exactly what I think.
Yeah, well, you've got another think coming.
Especially the half-assed bit.
Well, that's almost your trademark, isn't it? Like, barely researched and, and of course, literally phoned in because we're doing this from our quarantine lockdown
and experiencing a few audio issues just in case there are any problems. The conversation might be a little bit jilted. John keeps cutting out.
We might talk bollocks. We might say things that are factually inaccurate.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all that's the technology. It's not our fault.
That's the technology, indeed.
Liam might pitch a crap thing.
Almost certainly.
and of course that is also bollocks because I know what you're going to pitch and it's really good. So
you say that, but
Liam.
Right, okay.
We'll see. That's what we're here to decide. What is the thingy that you're here to talk about?
So I'm pitching to T'other. The Return to Oz.
Whoa, you mean the 1985 British-American fantasy film sequel to The Wizard of Oz, directed and written by Walter Murch?
I thought you didn't know what we were talking about.
No, I know that just came to me. I know I'm very knowledgeable about the book.
You're like Rain Man.
Yeah, I am like Rain Man. When it comes to books by L. Frank Baum that Disney bought the rights to in 1954, I am a blooming expert.
You are. Well, it's good that you know something about it because that's my pitch this week. And I'll tell you what, it may be marketed as a kids' film, but it's bloody scary.
Yeah, it is definitely dark. And in fact, that was, I suppose, jumping into how the movie sort of came to be. one of the reasons it got mixed reaction, basically it bombed at the box office, made a massive loss, and a lot of people slagged it off. And one of the reasons they slagged it off was because it's really, really dark and horrible.
It is really horrible. I remember seeing it at the cinema, actually, when I was a kid. Very young, and just remember thinking, Christ, this is bloody terrifying. And there are just a couple of bits in the film that really stood out, even at that sort of young age, and that I always remembered. And I've seen it multiple times since, but yeah, it is... I think what I like about it, we'll talk about the plot in a second, obviously, but I think what I like about it is a lot of kids' films, or films that are marketed at kids, sometimes, certainly from our era, sort of the 80s onwards, there are bits in there that you could consider, oh, God, that was a little bit dark, that was a little bit scary.
Oh, yeah.
This one, I think... the whole bloody thing is really dark and really scary. It is, I think, a horror movie for kids, a full-on horror movie for kids. It's really, really that bad.
It's kind of... So, my history with this film is that it was put on... This is, any of those memories where you've got... your brain just kind of filled in loads of gaps. So some of this will be wrong.
Yeah.
But there was some reason why. It was in primary school... And it was one of those days when, I don't know whether it was like a winding down to the summer holidays or the teachers just couldn't be arsed, but it's where they just stick a film on.
Yeah,
so you're all in like the assembly hall and there's just a movie on. And it was Return to Oz. And I remember, I'm sure we're going to touch on this bit, but the Wheelers making an appearance.
Oh,
and me being
that was the bit, I remembered, from the cinema.
And we'll come back to that maybe, because that is almost, one of the highlights, definitely. And I remember thinking, flick, Jesus, this is pretty scary stuff. Because at the start I've been like, oh, Wizard of Oz, this is for babies. But then either we ran out of time or I had to leave the assembly because, I don't know, I got summoned away to some
Peed your pants?
Say again?
Peed your pants?
Yeah, I got summoned away to clean up to clean my underwear. And so I never saw the second half of the film. And then, as an adult, loads of people lump this into that shit hot 80s films that were pretty dark but cool fantasy. Along with Willow and Labyrinth and Legend.
Yeah, Legend's a good one. Yeah,
Legend is ace. Tim Curry, that devil thing. I didn't even kind of know that until recently. Everything looked like it had a big bucket of glitter lobbed all over it.
Yeah,
just to make it look, fantasy, twinkly. But for whatever reason, I just always thought, I need to get round to watching Return to Oz, and then never did. So never watched the whole thing until you said you wanted to pitch it. So I watched it the other day, because you can get it, you get your free week on Disney+.
Yes, it's on Disney+, isn't it? Yeah.
So I just signed up for a free week, watched this and the a couple of Star Wars films or whatever, and then cancelled it. And I think it's good. It's ace. I enjoyed it. Good film.
It's good. It's not without its flaws, definitely, and perhaps some bits haven't aged that well in terms of the special effects, especially. But it's still, I think, it still holds up. It's still, I think, quite scary as well, even as an adult. We were talking about in the War of the Worlds that sometimes some things you have to have experienced as a child to still kind of find them sort of scary in a nostalgic way. Whilst I think this one, I have seen it many times, so maybe it doesn't apply to me, but this one I do think, as a new person watching it, you can see why it's considered to be quite dark and scary, even if you didn't see it when you were a child. I totally agree, and I have this kind of imaginary idea of, I don't know, some mum sitting down with some young kid and they're like, oh, let's watch this on Disney, it's a Return to Oz, a Wizard of Oz film, thinking it's going to be all munchkins and yellow brick roads, and then getting about half an hour in and Dorothy's undergoing electroshock treatment and they're like, oh shit, best turn this off. But it is, so one of the things with my half-baked, half-watched incomplete understanding of it is, I always assumed it was a Hollywood-made sequel that was therefore scripted and written from scratch by some hack. I did as well, yeah. Before Tinternet, yeah. Exactly, and now I know that, nope, there's actually shitloads of Oz books by this guy. Is it a guy? Is it a woman? I don't actually know. L. Frank Baum. I guess the Frank suggests it's a bloke. Loads of Oz books. So this is a really faithful adaptation of one of the books. So you kind of can't...
in a way, criticising it for being dark is a bit unfair.
Yeah.
Because if anything, the original ought to be criticised for being not dark enough and not true enough to the books.
Yeah.
But which is kind of news to me.
Fair point. Yeah. I just want to say actually about the original though, I do think. I think the original Wizard of Oz film. We're talking about the films today. I know we will reference the books perhaps a bit later, but primarily talking about the movies. I do think the original Wizard of Oz film has its moments of the Wicked Witch of the West. I think is quite scary, and also the bit at the beginning when it's black and white, and she sees the neighbour that wants to take Toto, the one that obviously the Wicked Witch of the West is based on. When you see her. On her bike when the tornado comes through and you see her go past the window. That bit's really frightening. And basically any time she's there, I do think she is quite a scary character. So even the original Wizard of Oz, I think, whilst I wouldn't perhaps nominate it for a place in the Hall of Fame...
I did a witchy laugh, but it was drowned out by your hacking cough.
Whilst I wouldn't necessarily picture it, I do think it's got some quite scary bits in it. So I just wanted to say that about the original. I do think it's a decent movie still.
Yeah, and if you think about even just the premise of like she lands a house on an old woman and kills her, that's a pretty dark opening.
Yeah,
but,
and when she takes the slippers as well, and the witch's like legs roll up, and that's quite creepy.
They like sort of is there a name for that? Something that's rolled up in itself. What is the word I'm looking for? Coil? A coil? Is that the word I mean? The feet kind of coil in on themselves. It is pretty twisted.
But yeah, so obviously she gets back to Kansas at the end of the first Wizard of Oz film, and she tells everyone about this amazing experience she had, and all of the people in Oz were they were the farm hands, and the people she knew and had met prior to going there.
The idea is that it was not imaginary, but that she'd, it's very similar to Alice in Wonderland, isn't it? It's a young girl who is fictionalising, her imagination's running wild, and all of the things from her real life are then being sort of absorbed into this narrative that she's constructed. Yeah,
so the sequel picks up, not sure how long afterwards, but essentially Dorothy can't stop going on about Oz, so they think she's, mentally disturbed. And
also they must have been surprised to find that she seems to have de-aged by about 10 years based on the casting. Because they've got, we should probably mention who's in it. So Dorothy is played by, I will probably pronounce this wrongly, but Fairuza Balk.
Yeah.
And she's this... I don't know, when she was young, she was like a really cute kid, and you can see why they cast her, but a lot younger than... What's her name in the first one?
Yeah, not Judy Garland.
Not Julie Andrews. Is Judy Garland, that's it. I was getting mixed up with Julie Andrews. So a lot younger, probably, better, the right age for the part. But then as she's got older, she's got this really distinct... She's got like a really big mouth and a big smile, hasn't she, that actress? She
was quite big, wasn't she, in the sort of late 90s? She sort of came back. She was in American History X. She was in Waterboy, famously The Craft as well.
Not seen her in anything for
ages,
really, yeah.
No, not since then. No.
I don't know, 40 odd or something.
Yeah. I don't know.
Won't be much,
hard to say, really. She might be deceptively older, though. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
And then I'll tell you who is deceptively old. Alongside Fairuza Balk, you've got her aunt. I think she's called Aunt Emma. Tell me if I've got that
Aunt
wrong.
Em, yeah.
And that is Piper Laurie, who was Catherine in Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
And so this came out in 1985. It's about 5 years before Twin Peaks, 5-6 years. And she looks like, she's dead really good looking, and she must have been, 50 odd at this point when this film was made? And I got really confused about the timeline and had to Google it.
Because she's also in Carrie as well, as Carrie's mum, which was in 1976. So
she was just really, really
adaptable.
Young looking. Would you agree with me that in this film
I do agree, she
could pass for late 30s, 40 odd, even though she must be pushing 60? So she must have had a good skincare regime.
Yeah, she was born in 1932.
That's absolutely not that we should judge people on their looks.
No,
alone,
of course, but it's just funny how because in Carrie, I think she looks her age, and then in this,
she doesn't, and she does a good job. And it's got Jean Marsh as generic evil, plays a variety of bad characters, which we'll cover when we come back to the plot. But she was Bav Morder in Willow.
Yes, yeah.
So she was like the go-to 80s villainess. And then, did you ever hear of this bloke called Nicol Williamson?
No.
So he plays the Gnome King.
Yeah.
And he's got a real kind of sinister, almost like James Earl Jones, Darth Vader voice going on. Does a really good job. But I'd never heard of him.
No.
And apparently he was this like really well-respected, well-regarded actor. And then I think he sadly died quite soon after this movie, so this is one of his last things, I think. But yeah, I've never ever heard of him before.
No, me neither.
But yeah, good cast.
Very good cast, yeah. Terrible movie. No, it was a good movie.
I interrupted then. You were mid. So Dorothy is basically she has returned to Kansas from Oz. And he's telling everyone about it, and everyone's sick of hearing about it because they think it's bollocks.
Yeah, they worry that she's kind of lost her mind a little bit.
Yeah.
So, she does find a key as well within Oz insignia in it. So she kind of feels like there's something going on. She needs to go back to Oz. This is the straw that broke the camel's back, and so Aunt Em takes her to get electroshock therapy.
It's absolutely unbelievable. There's like this creepy guy who's trying to introduce her to like the machine that's going to, revolutionary new treatment. And he's really excited about electricity, isn't he? I don't know, it's turn of the 19th century or whatever. And he's like, look, it's got a happy, smiley face.
And it's in a really creepy asylum, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, full of, the sort of stereotypical sort of shrieking mental patients who, screams of horror and suffering, and yet somehow Aunt Emma seems to believe all his that this is going to be this is all fine. It's just going to be a routine treatment, nothing to worry about. And then little Dorothy's going to get frazzled,
and then so this is all quite creepy. She's in this asylum. She's been introduced to the machine that's going to shock her brain into forgetting all about Oz. And the sort of matron there, obviously, we see again later on in the film. She's very stern, and she's quite kind to Dorothy initially, but as soon as Aunt Em leaves, she's not very nice at all.
Yeah,
and then Dorothy starts seeing this weird, ghostly little girl.
Yeah,
which is it's just quite creepy.
And Is that girl supposed to be really there in the real world, or does only Dorothy ever see her?
I think only Dorothy ever sees her.
Yeah, okay. You say Dorothy like an American. Say Dorothy.
Dorothy.
You said Dorothy.
Dorothy. I say a lot of things differently.
Dorothy.
Dorothy.
Dorothy. You can say it out. Say it how you want.
Dorothy. Hey, I haven't said baddie in a while, have I?
That we haven't had a good baddie.
We've got lots of good baddies in this one.
Now, the one thing about this film is it definitely has an array of baddies that is undisputed.
I also want to say as well, on the theme of Dorothy... I can't say it now. On the theme of this kind of absorbing real-life people into Oz, there's a really good one. The orderlies that wheel her to get her shock therapy, the wheelers are we see them again later, and so I thought that was quite a good one actually.
Brilliant. And again, embarrassingly, I'd never even clocked that. But yeah, of course, the wheelers, that's a manifestation of the orderlies in the asylum.
Wheeling her, yeah.
This is...
Anyway, so she kind of manages to escape. It's raining, there's a big storm. She manages to escape with this mysterious ghostly girl. And then
Thingy's chasing her again. Bavmorda's chasing them.
And the Wheelers. And then
they end up on like a river, don't they?
And
it's like
coop.
Dorothy's floating away to safety in a. Oh, sorry, you're right. Yeah, it's like in a chicken coop.
Yeah, and she wakes up in Oz with her chicken that we saw earlier on the film, Bellina, who can now talk. So Bellina is basically the new Toto.
Yes, yeah, it's a strange decision. A lot of the cast of the original don't really feature beyond like kind of cameos in this one. So yeah, there's no Toto. He couldn't be asked to turn up. We get Bellina, but I do like, as I've said before, I largely hate CGI and the ever increasing over reliance on it.
Yeah,
wrongly convinced that it looks amazing when in actual fact it often looks shite. I like it, particularly from the 80s, when if you wanted to do some special effects, usually your best bet was animatronics. And you've basically got this creepy, realistically proportioned animatronic chicken that has got loads of screen time in this movie.
There are a lot of articles about it. I was reading up online before we recorded this, and there are loads of articles about how creepy it is. And there's a really good BuzzFeed one, which if you wanted to just get the bullet points with some little GIFs, just shows you everything, every creepy thing that happens in the movie from start to finish. So we've kind of covered the asylum and the electroshock therapy, the escape in the river, and then she wakes up in Oz.
Can you imagine if you only read that summary as well?
Yeah,
and that was your only. You'd be like, "What the fuck is this? Why did Disney make this film?"
Yeah, and quite rightly so. And she wakes up in Oz. I think there's an initial bit where she has to be careful not to touch the sand, is it?
Yeah, there's some sort of... It's very labyrinth-esque with like the Bog of Eternal Stench.
That's right,
but it's like, you can only walk on these stones, don't touch the sand, otherwise you'll... I can't even remember what happens if you touch it. I don't know, turn to sand or something.
And then we see these rocks with like faces in them. Kind of looking at her, spying on her, and then disappearing, which we find out they report to the kind of he's the main baddie, the Gnome King, but
yes,
he's basically a big rock mountain.
Yeah, he's like a. I mean, it's a strange. Sometimes in like fantasy things, they decide they're going to take a well-established fantasy creature and just put a completely different spin on it. I guess it's a bit like what Tolkien did with elves, because prior to that, elves were almost like these little gnome, little pixie things, but he made elves as this like tall, handsome, kind of arrogant sort of Orlando Blooms. So in this film, gnomes, instead of being little pixie things with stupid hats, they're like rock monsters, basically, with faces on them.
And but the Gnome King is spelled Nome, isn't it? It's not gnome.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I didn't not like God the Gnome King.
So it's just a homonym or whatever the phrase is for that.
Yeah.
Homophone. Oh, that's embarrassing. All that gnome research I did was a waste of time then.
So obviously, Dorothy, she's back in Oz. She's got talking chicken.
Should we call her Steve for the rest of the episode?
No.
To avoid any controversy about the pronunciation.
No, I'm just going to pronounce it how I pronounce it.
That's fair enough.
Dorothy. Oh, mate, what have you done to me? Needless to say, Dottie wants to go back to the Emerald City to find out what's going on. Yeah? That makes sense to me.
Aye. Because she left the Scarecrow in charge of it the last time she buggered off.
So she wants to go back, see her friends. So what would you do? You would follow the Yellow Brick Road. The problem is, the Yellow Brick Road is fucked.
Follow the Yellow Brick... Oh.
Yeah, it's in urgent need of...
Knackered, innit?
It's in disrepair, yeah.
Basically, this is a lesson to all of our local councils about the need to do something about these flipping potholes. This is what can happen.
Absolutely,
before you know it, it's just in tatters. And then you've got gnomes everywhere.
You've got gnomes everywhere, yeah. Not the garden variety. This obviously sets the alarm bells ringing. Like, what's going on with Oz? Like, who's taking care of the roads? If they're not taking care of the roads, what else are they not doing?
Sloppy. Just sloppy.
Yeah. But she follows the Yellow Brick Road anyway and gets to Emerald City. And again, it's in it's in disrepair. Basically everyone in it has been turned to stone, and it's just a ghost town.
Yes, and it's funny actually. As we're going through this plot, there's so many things you're saying that are either that bit happens in Labyrinth, that bit happens in Willow. So when we went through that like foursome of revered 80s fantasy movies, the other three basically just ripped this film off, didn't they?
Yeah.
Or at least two of them did, because a city full of frozen, petrified people. That's Tirasleen in Willow. Rock monsters following your every move. That's in Labyrinth. It was clearly quite an influential film.
And not surprising. And so it's this bit's quite creepy as well. She's walking around, and as I say, it's a ghost town. She sees some of her old friends, and they've been turned to stone as well. Yeah. And,
Lion, Tin Man, both of them are there.
And then we get a look at the Wheelers, which are kind of like the henchmen for one of the many villains in this film. Yeah,
they're like the... Well, go on, describe the Wheelers for the listeners, because they are brilliant.
So they've got these like weird... Basically, they've got wheels for arms and legs, so they're like hunched over and they wheel around, and they've got these like helmets. The top of the helmets are like faces, like screaming faces, and then when they look up, you see their normal face, and they're kind of like heavily made up, as was the style of the 80s.
But I think the first time you see one, you see him with his head down.
You see it with the head down,
so you see the metal helmet.
Metal helmet, yeah. And they've got these like weird, I don't even know how you describe them, but their outfits have got like sort of like cables coming down, and
they look like they're
wires
sort of a bit almost post-apocalyptic, kind of like Mad Max kind of pieced together any old bollocks for their costume. So it's like wires hanging out of them.
Yeah.
Their arms and legs are like grotesquely long.
Yeah.
They almost look like kind of Slender Man on wheels kind of thing. And then the first time you see one of the faces, you don't see the face, you see the helmet, but you think that is their face.
Yeah.
So you get this like grotesque face, and it's... What does he shout? He shouts something, doesn't he?
I can't remember.
Note to self, I'm going to cut that in here if I can find a clip of it.
Oh, cowardly lion. What's happened to you?
Come here, chicken!
And they've just got these really sort of mean looking... They look like an 80s, I don't know, like a New Romance kind of band, the makeup
like
style.
Adam and the Ants or something.
New Romantic style makeup. And so actually, when you think about it, they're not perhaps as scary as they initially seem when they start talking, but they're still quite sinister. And anyway, they chase Dorothy, they back her into a corner, but luckily for her, there's some sort... I think it's the key she received. I think she manages to get into like a safe house by using the key, where she finds like her first companion other than the talking chicken. I mean, what the fuck are we talking about?
So Dorothy and a talking chicken break into some, I don't know, warehouse. And is this where they find that
TikTok,
that clock, the wind-up clockwork man?
Yeah, and he's kind of one of the old Oz guards, and he tells Dorothy basically what's happened. That the Scarecrow's been captured by the Gnome King, and that basically the Gnome King is in charge now. He's
running the show, and she has to. He has this gimmick where you have to wind him up, but he has kind of like separate bits. Like you have to wind up his movement and wind up his thought.
Yeah.
Isn't there a bit later when his thoughts wind down, so he starts talking bollocks?
Yeah, there is.
Basically.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we need. We just need someone to wind our thoughts up again.
I always try and wind you up.
Nice.
And so anyway, they decide that they need to go see the Princess Mombi, who I don't really know why
do they go there?
I don't know.
Maybe for some reason, instead of going straight to have it out with the Gnome King, they decide they're going to talk to Princess Mombi instead,
who's kind of like the Emerald City's new de facto leader, I guess. She's kind of been put in place.
She's sort of she doesn't work directly for the Gnome King. You get the impression that they've like got separate agendas, but they've cut a deal where she's in charge of the city while he's, sort of pulling the strings from, I don't know, underground or whatever he's doing, something like that.
So TikTok beats up all the wheelers. So
he does, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's good.
By spinning round and round, and they all conveniently run at him at exactly the right height so he can punch them in the face.
Pretty much.
But
TikTok, I mean, not the best guard, really, is he? He's massively immobile. He can't really do anything. Like, he's really slow. Like,
slow pace.
Really
well, it's
shit,
no wonder they got beaten then,
exactly.
Is it really? Yeah, he's pathetic. But he's quite likeable, though.
He is likeable,
metal,
I'm
metal
sorry.
fellow.
I'm sorry, TikTok.
Sorry, TikTok.
So they go to see Mombi, and this, for me, leads to the scariest scene in the whole film. Mombi collects human head. There's quite a nice bit before this, actually. You see some of the statues in the Emerald City are headless.
Yeah, brilliant.
And what that is that Princess Mombi collects the heads of like beautiful young women, and
so creepy.
And she changes heads, based on the mood of the day, I suppose. So all these like dancers, you see like dancers in the streets that have been turned to stone, and all their heads are missing. So she goes to see Mombi in this elaborate sort of castle, I guess.
Palace, shenanigans,
and Mombi ends up, for some reason, of course she doesn't help her. She locks her in a room under the premise that when she's old enough, she's going to cut her head off and take her head.
Worthwhile visit then.
Yeah.
And I remember, maybe this is like how you're conditioned as well in these sorts of films, but because when you first meet Mombi, she's got a young head
that's
on.
right.
And at this point, you don't yet know that it's just a replaceable head. You assume that's just her head. Because she's young and blonde and pretty, you assume, she's good then.
Yeah, that's right. You do.
And it's only when... Yeah.
Well, she's very charming initially, isn't she? She is. But it doesn't take long before, she grabs Dorothy and locks
she
her
switches
in
the head, doesn't she? She switches the head for a different one, and because that different one is a bit older and has got dark hair, evidently people with dark hair are more evil. It suddenly you're like, this is taking a sin, and she starts saying like, "Am I beautiful?" And she gets all evil queen on her asses, and then Dorothy gets locked up in the top of a tower,
and then the friend makes another friend, Jack Pumpkinhead.
Yep. Which, fair enough.
So as you can see, it's sort of similar to the first movie where she collects, compadres along the way on her journey. He's literally a pumpkinhead with, I think he was created to like clean the palace.
Yeah, he's got like long spindly bits of wood for his arms and legs, and just an actual carved pumpkin for a head.
And he was brought to life with Mombi's special powder of life, which she keeps locked up with her, main original head. And obviously, Dorothy, they create this sort of flying sofa.
Right, this bit is the most disturbing bit in the whole film. So having befriended a pumpkin head thing, which in itself looks pretty bloody disturbing, they're sort of, so far the two companions are very similar to the original. Yeah. Like, the pumpkin head is almost a scarecrow, and TikTok is almost a tin man.
Tin Man,
I was wondering if they were almost just doing like the chicken instead of the dog kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily stay true in some ways. But then, their plan to escape is, so we know there's this magic dust that animates inanimate objects. Let's build a homemade, cobbled-together flying sled, like Santa. But the only items they've got to hand are a couch to sit on, fair enough. Some big fronds of, like, palm leaves for wings. Okay, I can sort of buy that. And then the decapitated head of a moose... Yeah. That's hung on the wall. So from the perspective of the moose, when it gets resurrected, It hasn't got a body or legs. All it's got is 2 leaves and a fucking couch instead of its skeleton. That's absolutely harrowing. It can't move. All it can do is fly if it's pushed out of a window. It's like really. Imagine you waking up and your head has been literally just stuck on a piece of furniture.
Yeah. It's really dark. Yeah.
So I'm surprised he doesn't like. Remember that scene in RoboCop 2 when they're trying to make more RoboCops, but all the resurrected dead coppers are so horrified at what they've become that they immediately just commit suicide.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised that didn't happen, to be honest, given how dark the film is.
What could it do? I suppose it could fly into the sea.
It could fall out of the sky and refuse to flap it. It could go on like a strike.
Yeah.
You know, splatter all over the floor.
And this, for me, is, I think, the most traditionally sort of frightening scene when Dorothy has to go and try to retrieve the magic powder. The powder. Which she does by... it's stored with Mombi's kind of main head, which is the same woman who... the orderly from... the matron from the psychiatric hospital. Which is Bavmorda from Willow? Yes. So, like, I almost gave a little, like, way when she reappeared. So she goes into this kind of hall of heads. All of these other heads are, like, looking at her. I think, I'm not sure, I'd have to watch this again, but I think some of them are awake and kind of, like, you know, a bit frightened about what's going to happen. Yeah. But the main head, Mombi's main head, is asleep. And in her little box there's, you know, the magic powder, etc. So she has to go in really quietly and try to retrieve the magic powder, but of course she knocks something. Mombi's head wakes up and says something and calls for her headless body to come and retrieve her head, which is flapping around, to retrieve her head to chase Dorothy. Absolutely terrifying. And the headless body is just in bed. Yeah. So clearly, when she goes to bed, she takes her head off, and just the headless body is the thing that sleeps. And the headless body sort of clumsily comes past to try and retrieve the head to chase her. And this is a kids' film. It's ace. And then, I think she sticks the head on, so it's Bavmorda now, basically, chasing her up the stairs with the powder. And she uses the powder to animate the fucking monstrous Frankenstein aberration, unholy, godless contraption that they've built. And they all manage to bugger off out the window? Yeah. Jesus. And this, for me, is when the film kind of loses some steam, because I think all up to now it's been really, really frightening, which I think is great. And then there's kind of just a bit now where they're just going to the Gnome King's Mountain to get the Scarecrow back, and I just don't think the remaining third of the film is as scary, but still good though. I did like the actual Gnome King himself because that actor I was talking about before. I was quite impressed with him. He was kind of a creepy... explain to everyone what happens then. So Mombi keeps reporting back to the Gnome King. If I remember rightly, something goes amiss with the flight or the landing, and they fall, and everyone's head falls off, and then implausibly she manages to catch Jack Pumpkinhead's head on the stick of his body. Meanwhile, that moose's head couch monster's heads fell off, and he's quite chilled out about it all. He's like, I never thought I'd be a bloody couch. Yeah. But anyway, so she and I think TikTok go into the sort of inner sanctum. Jack Pumpkinhead comes with them. Yeah. But do they have to leave the moose behind? I don't recall him getting involved in this final sort of trial that they have to overcome. Yeah, no, he's just like parked up, isn't he? Yes. He's just parked, they leave him parked up outside with the steering. I suppose the one quite good bit I liked is that when they are flying away, you do see Mombi start to chase after them with the wheelers, as like she's like in a kind of sled almost, and the wheelers are pulling the sled, which I thought was kind of cool. You see that from... She's like whipping them. Yeah. She's almost like, hey, come on, take me to the Gnome King, kind of thing. Yeah. And that's the end. No. Yes. So
they get into... So the Gnome King, I don't know, lives in some mountain or something, so it's a bit kind of Mordor vibes.
Yeah.
And he confronts them, or they confront him, and for quite a while, he's got that same CGI effect as like his little rock spy followers, but just on a bigger scale, which I think looks pretty cool for the time.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of works. This big sort of shape-shifting rock man in the wall. And he... Tell me if I got this wrong. He's sort of saying... The only way you can rescue the Scarecrow is if you go into this next room where I've turned a load of people into objects. One of them is the Scarecrow, but if you guess it wrong, then you're going to be turned into an object and join my big collection. Or you get it right and you free him. But he only allows them in one at a time.
That's right, yeah.
So it's like the pumpkin fella has a crack and doesn't come out, so he's cocked it up. TikTok goes in to have a crack. And then the Gnome King reveals that TikTok has wound down, so he stopped.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Before he has his go.
That's right, but it was all part of the plan, wasn't it? He hadn't really...
yeah, because that's... Yes, genius. He basically saves the day. So the Gnome King allows Dorothy to go in to wind him up, but unbeknownst to the Gnome King, TikTok's done this. He's pretending to be wound down so that he can actually have a discussion with Dorothy, so they've got more chance of figuring it out. Clever ploy. And by that point, the Gnome King... It's weird, they just bin off the CGI halfway through the scene.
Yeah, that was very strange. I think what that was supposed to symbolise was that he was becoming more powerful.
Yeah, he's not just stuck as a rock thing in the wall, he's now just a bloke, albeit a grey one that looks like he's made out of rocks. And he seems like puffing away on a pipe.
Yeah, I think he is, yeah. But basically, he is the electroshock main.
Yeah,
bloke.
He's the Doctor.
Yeah, the Doctor.
Of course he is. So yeah, Dorothy and TikTok basically figure it out. I can't even remember what the thing that the Scarecrow is.
No, we should probably back up a little bit and say that all throughout the film, there's a weird thing with chickens.
Yes.
Remember, Dorothy has her chicken Belina with her, and for some reason, they keep reporting back to the Gnome King about this chicken. The Gnome King seems terrified and really angry every time he hears that the chicken is with them.
Yeah, it's almost like he doesn't really give a shit about Dorothy.
No.
He's only asked about this chicken, as if he's like, ugh, get this chicken out of my kingdom. You know, what do you mean you failed to get the chicken, you pathetic minions?
So, what was the Scarecrow then? What was the Scarecrow?
I can't remember. He was like a bit of, I don't know, like a bit of rock or something, like a bit of emerald.
Yeah.
And I guess that's like, because of the Emerald City, but I kind of thought that was a bit lame.
I thought it was a bit lame, yeah. It wasn't...
If they were going to make him be an object and have Dorothy figure it out, I thought they could come up with something a bit more meaningful or a bit more sentimental somehow. But it just was like, oh yeah, he's just like this rock here.
Yeah, it was a bit lame, wasn't it?
But either way, they resurrect the really creepily designed Scarecrow.
Yeah, he has not aged well.
He's not. He's aged horribly.
Yeah, he doesn't look as good, does he?
No. Ugh. So yeah, you've got Scarecrow, Dorothy, TikTok, I think Chicken, obviously, Pumpkinhead, I think therefore comes back, and then the Gnome King's, I don't know, what happens to what fate befalls old headless woman in the end? What happens to her?
Do you know what? I don't know. I don't think they really
resolved her plot line. She just failed to catch Dorothy and, buggered off back to whip some more wheelers. Fair enough. She probably put a different head on and forgot all about it.
I think, doesn't she just carry her away in the end? Because basically the Gnome King gets really angry, goes to eat everyone.
She gets a bollocking.
Goes to eat Dorothy, but then Belina shits an egg into its mouth, and apparently... the egg is the only thing that could have killed the Gnome King.
Why didn't we think of that? We could have saved a lot of hassle if we'd just known that to begin with. But yeah, you're quite right. A chicken's egg is like his Achilles heel. And he sort of crumbles away to nought. And, cut to Dorothy and all her mates are being heralded as the saviours of the city. TikTok's had a wash. He's been like polished, buffed up.
Yeah, buffed up, yeah.
He's all shiny. And then this is where that random girl, that other girl who saved her from the asylum in the first place, she kind of rocks up and she's taking over as the Queen of Oz.
Yeah.
And I was a bit like, the fuck are you? What have you done?
Yeah.
Make Dorothy the Queen of Oz. She deserves it. She deserves it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So there you go. She'd been enchanted by Mombi and becomes the new queen. Bellina stays in Oz.
Oh, she does. Does she get a promotion? Does she get like a royal, like a job, like leader of the army or something?
Almost certainly.
Head chef?
Could be.
I suppose she would know how to cook a good chicken.
And then Dorothy comes home and
she's, in effect, she's washed up.
Yeah, this bit's quite creepy as well.
At the side of the river, yeah.
So you find out that the hospital burnt down and the doctor died trying to save his machines. And then you see the matron, the nurse, locked in one of those mobile prisons in a police buggy.
Yeah, Bavmorda.
She was a criminal.
It's a bit weird because it's like, so basically the guy's dead, which seems a bit harsh because I'm sure he was, a doctor trying to do his best, albeit this was he was electrocuting children for a living. The nurse, for some reason, has been incarcerated, which seems again quite harsh. And then Aunt M rocks up and she's like, "Oh, Dorothy, I'm so sorry for what, I nearly made you get electroshock therapy." Like, it's just
absolute madness.
She sort of changes her tune. And then do they just bugger off back home again? And that's kind of your lot.
So, yeah, that's it.
Kill a few chickens, eat them.
Yeah.
Cheer themselves up that way. But isn't it insinuated that even the ending might be in Dorothy's part of the fiction? And really, Dorothy's actually in the asylum being, operated on.
Christ, I didn't know. I don't know about that. Really?
I basically read that somewhere, but then when I watched it, I couldn't discern any hint that was the case. So maybe someone was just trying to make it even more creepy than it already is, which wasn't really required because it's flipping weird already.
God, that is horrible.
So who knows? Who knows what happens to Dorothy in the end?
Horrible film. Absolutely horrible.
It's basically like The Wizard of Oz meets Silent Hill.
Yeah, it is a bit, yeah. But yeah, very dark film. From beginning to end, perhaps the kind of first half of it, I think, is where all the really creepy bits are. But yeah, I think pretty strong showing. That's a scary film, man. There's
some dark shit. And I said I was going to adopt a very, very firm stance on permitting any further entries into the Hall of the Hall of Fame. This one is, as we've proven in the last 45 minutes of discussion, this is basically the most horrifying and dark horror film ever made by mankind. Yeah. So it is definitely in the Hall of Fame.
Hey.
It's a shoe-in. It's a ruby slipper-in.
Yeah, no, I think well deserved as well. It's it really is a creepy film, and adult, child, go out your way to watch it.
And not to overstress the same point, I think it holds up well, and partly because it doesn't rely too much on CGI type stuff, and it's got more, kind of animatronics and people in costumes, basically. I think it holds up well from a kind of special effects perspective. It doesn't look that dated.
The worst parts of it, I think, are the kind of Gnome King bit at the end. Doesn't look that great, but yeah, for the most part, I think it's probably got the right balance, really. Again, it's the scary bits. We were talking about, I don't know if we were talking about it on the podcast or not, but remember we spoke about It Chapter 2 and how they went, I don't know if it was even us actually, they went so overboard with CGI that it just ruined the film. And totally the scariest bit was just, for me, in It Chapter 2, was just a bit when it, kind of beckons that girl to come under the bleachers, and it's just quite a simple scare.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And in this, the scariest bits are the human parts. You know, Princess Mombi
Yeah.
just waking up.
The Wheelers.
Yeah, it's just that, just much more
100%
powerful
agree.
and frightening. Maybe they weren't going for frightening. Maybe they should have put more special effects in to make it a bit more, I don't know, light-hearted, but...
Yeah, to make it... Yeah, but it is a great... particularly It Part 2, is a great example of special effects and loads of screen time for the monster ruins the monster and makes it not scary. Just a brilliant example. Like, by the end, I was just yawning, bored. I'm sick of this now. I'm not remotely scared of this thing because I've seen far too much of it. Another one was... did you ever see that weird prequel to The Thing called The Thing that they did about 10 years ago?
No, I don't think I did.
And that has got exactly the same problem. It's pretty good up until the point that the thing itself starts to be revealed and manifested and more present. And then they just, again, we can do CGI. So instead of like fleeting glimpses of ropey John Carpenter animatronics, you just get loads of close-ups of this like tentacle monster that just looks a bit stupid.
Yeah, fair enough.
And so for all the big hotshot Hollywood producers that are listening to this show, as I'm sure you are, please just like tone down the CGI, man.
Less is more. Less is sometimes more.
Less is more. Gotta fuel our imaginations with a few glimpses, not just showing us some art graphic design person showing off, basically. It grinds my gears, man.
And you know, as I said, the creepiest parts of this film are the parts where it's just actors.
Basically, what we want is we want more little kids undergoing electroshock therapy and less scary clowns, please.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
On which savoury note, I guess we should congratulate Return to Oz for taking its place amongst the dark denizens of the love pain witch themed. And we should bugger off and leave everyone to enjoy.
Is you pitching next time?
It is, and I'll give you I'll try and give you a clue. Let's just say that all these episodes will one day be lost like tears in rain.
We're doing Blade Runner, aren't we?
Yeah, we'll do Blade Runner. But not remotely, because I've got a book out that's a cyberpunk novel around about the same time. That's nothing to do with my decision.
Fair enough. I look forward to it. You can take that to the bank.
And we'll cover the sequel as well. Tune in, find out what we made of Blade Runner 2049. And and we'll probably have some crap jokes. Anything else you think?
Plenty.
Poor quality audio. That's become a staple of the show as well.
Absolutely.
And also a really drawn out ending where we can't think of a way to close it.
We need to come up with something.
Like a sign off. Like, hey, we've been Dark Natter and you've been
Dark.
Just very kind. Thanks.
Thank you.
How about that? Signing off.
Bye. Just get out of here.
Bye. Thank you for listening, everybody, to another edition of Dark Natter. If you enjoyed the show and want to support us, you can do so by leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast listening service, or even better, by telling your friends, family and fellow dark fiction enthusiasts all about us. Please also follow us on social media, where you'll find us on Instagram at Dark Natter Podcast, or on Twitter at Dark_Natter. Our thanks also go to Ross Budgeon for the theme music you heard at the start of the episode. I mentioned earlier that I have a new book out, so if you are a fan of cyberpunk thrillers, dystopian fiction, or even just a good old-fashioned detective story, please don't hesitate to head to www.jon-richter.com, that's www.jon-richter.com, or just search for London 2039 Auxiliary on Amazon. I will leave you with a short audio excerpt from the book, which will hopefully give you an enticing taste of what awaits you, although I'm not sure if cyberpunk in a Wigan accent will ever truly catch on. Bye for now! He frowned as she pushed open the door. The apartment was similar to Ambrose's, similar to his own, similar to everyone's. a soulless cube for human storage. The bulb in the hallway was a low wattage, as though the occupant was photophobic. Maggie sucked on her e-cigarette again as she led them towards the door to what turned out to be the living room. Still frowning, Dremler followed her inside. The room was surprisingly large, but any sense of space was undermined by the amount of mess that had accumulated within it. Too much furniture had been crammed in, and ornaments adorned every available surface. Chairs were covered with piles of clothes, the walls dominated by shelves full of ancient books, CDs and DVDs. Whoever lived here was clearly a retro enthusiast. Dremler couldn't make out the titles of the archaic volumes because the living room was even darker than the hall. The fitting and bulb from the central light had shattered into fragments strewn across the wooden floor. The illumination came instead from a pair of portable spotlights that had been set up and aimed at the wall as though pointed towards a performer taking centre stage. But this was not a live show. It was a tableau, maybe the most brutal he'd ever seen. A woman's head had been crushed into the wall, which had cracked and crumbled around it. She was suspended about a foot from the floor by the arm of her attacker, a muscular titanium HET prosthetic, its fingers clamped tightly around her face. The limb had been severed at the shoulder and was left jutting straight out into the room, as though the woman had died wearing some sort of bizarre headgear. She was slim and dressed in gym clothes. He tried to imagine her face in life, but could only picture the mangled ruin that was doubtless hidden beneath the palm of the mechanical appendage that had killed her. Clumps of her dark hair protruded between its fingers, dark blood oozing out and drip, drip, dripping onto the floor.